Thank you, everyone, for coming. I am Andy Kehoe,
I'm Ben Kehoe.
and the theme of the day is symmetry, and we actually thought about saying symmetry at the same time, but we aren't those kind of twins.
Yeah.
We're not the we hold no fault against them. Like we're into the Weasley twins. They're pretty cool. I gotta control this thing. So when it came to symmetry, we went down a bunch of rabbit holes. Thought about getting into like the symmetry as it pertains to art, and how symmetry actually like initially meant the commensurability and proportion, such as the golden ratio, and then how it related to like the Mona Lisa and the Parthenon, and how it is found in nature, and how it was actually looked for like kind of a divine design, and how like people can like just relate it to their own lives. And you know, there's the debate that like the Parthenon actually probably wasn't influenced by the golden ratio because it wasn't really written down until Euclid did it 150 years later. And then there's also the different types of symmetry in nature. But when it came down to it, you could probably like, you've probably heard all that over and over. If you got in art school, we've heard it. So
Yeah, we talk about stuff like this. I actually interned here at the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, and we would always get into weird science things and go down the rabbit hole a lot here. And so I just was looking up some different types of symmetry that happens in nature because I feel like I'm getting more and more influenced by ecology and natural things. So I just found this picture of this dog that's unwittingly divided down the middle to sort of display bilateral symmetry. And I was also trying to figure out maybe that we're unwittingly influenced by symmetry, since 99% of animals are bilaterally symmetrical. So we definitely have our biases, and I was reading some academic papers, and I was like, I don't want to go into this.
So we decided to focus on what we are true experts at.
Ooh.
Being twins. I meant being twins is a very strange kind of life experience. Are there any other twins in here? Yeah, our people.
One cool person.
We are
Lots of cool people.
we are the identical sort.
Look at that guy.
Not this oddball.
Trying to be different.
Those are overly technical drawings.
We
don't
pretty
need to go into
much have just grown up sharing everything from the womb to a room, just always sharing experiences. And so we definitely have like a really joint experience by being identical twins. I really wouldn't give it up for anything.
Yeah, I mean, in our lives, we're pretty much directly parallel for very formative years, and the influence of that can't be understated.
Yeah.
I mean, even with their own artwork, like people are always like, "Oh, I like that painting." Actually, even happened today. Like, "Oh, I like that painting you did." And I'm like, "Oh, that's Ben's." And I'm sure like it happens. So like, those themes and those influences are going to be in there, and it's not a detriment to either of us either. So
Yeah, I take it as a compliment if someone says they think I painted Andy's paintings.
And yeah, here's some shots of us when we were kids. So a weird thing is like, we try to define our own identities as we're growing up, but it was also more comfortable for people to like kind of define them for us because like I would always have to wear red and he would be blue.
Yeah, we're color coded
Yeah.
for the benefit of everyone that we came in contact with.
Yeah.
But it is kind of shocking because we do have, our separate group of friends, and then I tell them I have a twin, but then when he shows up, everyone's like, oh! It's really shocking to people.
Yeah. But as long as we can remember, we've always been drawing.
Yeah.
Like some of my earliest memories are just sitting down at the table, box of those 96 crayons with the sharpener on the side, and just going nuts. Just all day, every day. And we actually found some old drawings. This is one of the earliest ones we could find that is
Yeah.
very,
This is a-
very collaborative.
Yeah, collab piece. So
The piranha is spelled pretty hilariously.
yeah, at least we spelled shark right.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. There's like some guy with fish. Um,
Yeah, this one's really weird. Someone's face is getting sliced off. There's just a head on fire right there.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're thinking. And we're also like always super into comic books and
Yeah.
cartoons. And like, I think this is like my superhero of some sort. I think this is like a steel beam and a cop. So, sorry.
I don't know.
I don't know where that comes from. So we also like actually started a comic book as well, and it was loosely based on 21 Drum Street.
Yeah, and then we ended up having the characters as rodents instead of people. Mine was a rabbit, which is not a rodent, it's a logomorph. But, you know.
And yeah, there's a pig and the wheels. I don't know. But even back then, like this, my work now is like very anthropomorphic creatures. Like maybe it like started back then. I don't know.
Yeah. I went through some weird, really violent phase of artwork. I blame it on my Italian friend that got us into mafia movies. So my characters turned from cops into a mafia, and they were like executing all these people. It was a lot of throats getting ripped out. I think that was from Roadhouse. We watched Roadhouse. All right, we can skip past that one. I don't wanna
And Miller's Crossing.
Miller's Crossing. Yeah, we watched a lot of weird movies.
But at the end of this comic, he says, I want some chicken.
I was trying to make it like he's just like a killer, so he can just go eat some food after murdering someone.
I drew hundreds and hundreds of Ninja Turtles. Like, actually just sat down the other day. I was like, I wonder if I still draw a Ninja Turtle. Still in there. All those years of Ninja
Muscle
Turtle
memory.
training. But the original comics were pretty influential on me as well. They were.
Yeah, I remember
brutal.
didn't another set of twins, and they challenged us to a Ninja Turtle draw-off?
We won.
Yeah, we crushed them.
And then this is like later in our teenage years. Again, super in the comic books. And there's this publication called Wizards, and you could submit your drawings to them. And these were our submissions. A lot of Wolverine and Spider-Man, obviously.
It looks like he's stabbing himself in the throat.
We did not win. So
Yeah, I don't even think we sent them in, because those are the days where you actually had to mail your original artwork, because you couldn't scan them in. So we didn't send them. Got a little too attached to them.
So, I don't know. Being twins, being a mixed race, Asian minority, it's like a quadruple weird against us. So
Yeah,
we
got a
were never
lot of
destined to
exclusion.
to like the norms of society, I guess. So we always just kind of retreated into I would maybe call them like fringe
fringe
counterculture
interests.
kind of things. So it was comics, D&D, a lot of like old PC gaming, and skateboarding was a huge part of our lives.
Yeah, we watched a lot of different cartoons, and we've always tried to emulate those cartoons with our own, like the twins that were in G.I. Joe, Tomax and Zaymot.
And also with skateboarding, this was like one of our favorite skateboarders, Willie Santos. And growing up as an Asian kid in America, you didn't really have so many like people to look up to or role models. But in the skateboarding scene, there was a lot of like Asian skaters. Besides that, we had like Data from Goonies.
Yeah, Short Round.
Yeah, also the same guy. But like our interests, our main interests were like very much aligned. Like we loved the same things, but we would always like claim like little parts of it for ourselves. And like there's always this like trying to define your own identity as a twin. So when it came to things like Star Wars,
Yeah, I liked Han Solo. He likes Luke Skywalker, and I didn't even pick up his Luke Skywalker toy because I didn't want anything to do with it because it was his.
Yeah. Like once it's this weird mental thing. Like once we claim something, like the other person just didn't touch it.
Yeah.
And like things like I like Superman, he liked Batman, and I like Batman, but I never read them because I was like, oh, it's his thing.
Yeah, it's weird. We missed out on some stuff.
There's huge gaps.
It's carried over into my adult life.
Yeah, like even now, like my wife will like buy like some snacks, and I'm like, I like those snacks, but those are her things, so I won't touch them. I don't know. It's just like it's in there forever. When it came to Marvel, he was the Punisher guy. I was the Spider-Man guy, and with that was like Jim Lee and McFarlane, and skateboarding.
Yeah, I liked Plan B because there's a B, and my name's Ben. So
Pretty basic.
it's really deep. Actually, I heard it was kind of a bad company.
Ooh. Well, those were weird days. All right, so moving on to my artwork, I actually
Do the selecting?
Oh, sure. So the weird thing is, though, like we are both into art all through, childhood and into high school. But when it came to like pursuing what we wanted to do after high school, we decided to like branch off and to do our own thing, even though like we should have just both gone to art school. I don't. So, but I made the long journey to art school. I switched schools a few times, and so this is like some of my more recent work. So when it came to the themes of symmetry, obviously like the twin thing is like a pretty cool and obvious thing. But in my own work, symmetry is a very important part. Sure. Anyway, we could turn these lights on.
Yeah, I think they need to film it. So.
Okay. This is probably the biggest example of like just straight symmetry in my work. And when it came to this painting, like I wanted something like just very still and calming. During my shows, like it gets pretty hectic. Usually towards the end, I'm working like 60, 70 hours a week, just like trying to get as much work done as I can. And then it comes to these, I always do one painting at the end. I'm like, I just need a painting that'll like calm me and put me in a good place. And this was that. I guess we go next one. I also use a lot of geometric shapes to further the symmetry. Symmetry like in my work just kind of like formed. I like the kind of open environments of my nature, and having the center creature and like center composition just helps like bring the world around the subject. Yeah, you go. And there are like symmetry in like the creatures as well. For this, I actually don't know if it's because of a twin thing, but I just like the balance of it. And a lot of the symmetry in my work has to do with just like compositional balance. So there will be like, there's only so symmetrical I want to make like a forest or a tree. So it's more like just balance the sides. But there's also symmetry at the two cats and the center eclipse and everything. I think it just like, it just gives a good like kind of eerie mood to it, which I really love. And here's some more examples. I also use mainly like foreground trees where I like kind of silhouette it to like just give that balance. And then the background is usually like pretty chaotic and organic. Yeah, here's another example. And all my worlds, like I am influenced by natural elements, but I like the idea of like a fantastical kind of made-up world to like express the grandeur of nature in my own way. And there's also like a thematical like balance to some of my work too. So it's not just like technical and visual. Like with this one, it's like they're just from two separate worlds, but like they balance each other. And it's also using color as well.
All right. So you'll just kind of see the slight differences. A lot of people think we have exactly the same aesthetics and style, but we do kind of have our differences. I didn't go to art school mainly because the twin complex, and I didn't want to do the same thing. And then I had this really stressful job with my dad, as working with your parents is kind of awful. And then I guess I needed to add trying to create an art career after my 10 to 11 hour days of working for him at his body shop. So that's why I want to say if I accidentally swear, it's because I worked at a body shop for like 12 years where entire sentences would be curse words. It was kind of amazing. So I'm more into making, I don't really have any reoccurring characters or environments. I just sort of am more situational or thematic. I'll sort of think of an idea of, how people interact with nature, and I'll just do a series about it. And this is sort of just some characters in like interacting with nature in different ways. This guy's thinking about, where am I going to do some logging, and nature's watching you. And I didn't really think about how my work was symmetrical until this theme came, and I started looking at my work. I was like, fuck, I guess I am symmetrical in my work.
And there's the auto body right there.
I had no idea. And then sort of venturing into the symmetry, and then I was like, I think this has affected my brain. So this is another one. I got really into nature and ghosts, and I was thinking about how it would be really sad if I was a ghost and I was stuck inside, and I'd rather be a ghost outside, hanging out in nature. So I just started thinking of some different ideas for ghosts in nature, and a lot of these things aren't really correct ecologically. With the leaves, I don't know which one has 3 lobes and is yellow. I think I just made it up, and now I'm more into tree ID. So. Yeah, so I guess I started using some geometric shapes as well. I think just to sort of enclose the environments a little bit and just sort of highlight the characters and try to contain that nature. And I definitely got interested in doing some more, horizontal symmetry in some of my works. And this is sort of an example of that. This is a story of Laylaps and the Tunisian hound. It's like a paradox where it's a fox that can't be caught, and it's a dog that always catches what it goes after. And then I think the god gets mad and just tosses them into the stars. But I always thought it was a really cool story. I do a lot of group shows, so they'll give you like a theme to go after, and this is, I think, something on mythology, so I did a painting on that. This is another one where I did just some mirroring. If you want to make people freak out, just take a mirror photo in nature on a lake, and people always like it. So I was like, maybe I'll try a painting like that. And this is sort of what my brother was discussing. Just do a nice, calm, easy painting at the end of hours and hours of painting in a studio by yourself, losing weight. And I was like, yeah, I'll just do this really simple one, and it was everyone's favorite, and then it's the first one that gets sold. I think it was the only one that got sold that show. And yeah, these are some paintings that I did for a show in Portland, and I just wanted to do some sort of supernatural things, but add geometric shapes and nature, and because I think in a natural setting, perfect geometry is really unsettling.
Yeah, it definitely like feels unnatural.
Yeah.
And like symmetry and like a lot of film and art also like has that eerie, unnatural feeling to it, which I really enjoy. So.
Yeah, me too. These are some of my like newer ones. I haven't done too much painting personally recently. I've just been trying to concentrate on my graduate program that I just got through. And but these ones are sort of dealing with nature, less symmetry, more just trying to create balance. Because I didn't go to art school, so I've just always been trying to like grow as an artist and learn balance. And I think sharing a studio space with my brother was nice because I'd do a painting like, what do you think of this? And he's like, yeah, you need to change some stuff. So I've been just trying to take his advice and work on it on my own whenever we weren't together in a studio space.
Yeah, because in art school, like, critiques are like pretty
Brutal.
much your whole day. People just tell you what's wrong, how you can fix it, and it helps. And he just never had that, so
Yeah.
he would like take a little personally sometimes.
Yeah, I got blasted in an art review before, and I was like, and I was like, that's good, I understand. And it actually did help me out a lot because I didn't really have anyone to do that for me, so I had a one-person critique to help me out, and I tried not to get mad about it.
Yeah, because like when I was in art school, like I didn't exactly know what I was learning, and didn't know if it was worth it afterwards. But then like when I would go to like make a painting, like the way I approached it, the way like I would figure out my concepts, all that stuff was ingrained in there. So it was like these weird little subtle things that kind of stick with you.
Yep, I didn't have to pay for that.
Yeah.
You just told me.
And I just handed it out to my brother.
But I did get a communications degree, which did not help me at all. It was back in the day when there was no social media, so it's essentially worthless nowadays. So I've moved on to doing artwork for organizations I work for. I worked for a sustainability center at Slippery Rock University called the McCoskey Center, which is just an awesome place. And I started my fall internship here at the Frick Environmental Center. I know there's some PPC people here. And luckily they were kind enough to let me do some art project for them. I'm glad they had faith that it would turn out well because sometimes when you tell an intern to do some artwork, it doesn't really turn out too well. So yeah, and one of the things I was kind of learning about symmetry with leaves is that we kind of perceive leaves as being really symmetrical, but if you really take a look, some of the lobes are a little bit different and the leaf margins. So I found that interesting when kind of reading up on symmetry. So these are just some quick examples of things that I've been doing for the Pittsburgh Park Conservancy over the last few months and for the McCoskey Center. And I'm hoping to maybe integrate some of these skills that I have been developing, because I wish I would have started doing more conservation, and I was like, I wish I got into it a little bit sooner, but I feel like maybe the 10 years that I spent working on my artwork and getting my creative skills together will help me with my future position as a ranger or at a environmental organization, because I feel like I started the game a little bit late. I just turned 40, so I'm like, I don't know if they're worried about hiring a 40-year-old to go into the woods and sprain his ankle or something. But yeah, that's about it for my artwork. And I think maybe just looking through both of ours, you could kind of see these subtle differences and yeah, more symmetry. There you go. But yeah. Yeah. Thanks for listening to us.
Q&A, I guess. Okay. I mostly use oils now. If you look at that, we actually brought in some originals, and the one on the right, actually, I was working with resin for a while. So this is actually like a painting inside like a shallow box. And I would paint a layer, and then add a layer of resin, and then add another layer of painting on top of that, and kind of build it up. These are this is one of my most recent ones, and my first ones, I didn't realize how heavy the resin would be. So I made them super thick, and they looked great, but a painting like this size ended up being like 60 pounds or something. Yeah, so now I just decided to work bigger and thinner, and it's worked out a lot better.
And I use acrylic because I don't have much patience, and I just want to get going again, and acrylic dries really fast. And I felt like I was sort of beginning, and I wanted to experiment a lot more, and you can experiment pretty easily with acrylics. So.
Time for kind of a personal question about your appearance. So your facial hair is similar, but your hair, which someone like me would notice, your comb is different. Is that intentional or designed to
Well,
maintain,
we had
maintain symmetry?
an agreement that one of us would keep our hair a little shorter and one a little bit longer.
I broke it.
He betrayed us.
I'm actually growing it back because anytime I go out now, someone's like, "Hey Ben," I'm like, "It's not your fault. I blew it. I blew it."
I'm kind of bad with names, so sometimes someone will be like, "Hey," I'm like, "Does he think I'm my brother, or do I just not remember them?"
Constantly happens.
So it's a bad thing. Right?
Not recently. That's something we should definitely do.
Yeah, we've always talked about it, and it's just never happened. I don't know why.
I meant like with my exhibiting art schedule, it was like show work for show. Everything I had to do had to go to a show. So it was very like little time to like experiment with that kind of stuff. But I'm trying to lighten my art show schedule, so I'm trying to fit more things like this in. So it's a good idea.
You talked about being color-coded when you were kids,
Yeah.
and I can't help but notice this is color-coded.
Yeah, there's red and blue in there. You're right.
And so, but in general, has that sense of separation by color, has that influenced your art?
I don't know. Andy was always dressed in red, and he's more fiery than I am. And like, I guess I was wearing blue all the time, and I'm pretty relaxed.
Yeah, when we would get in arguments when we were kids, he would just like wind me up so much, and I just. That was like his trick. He just like made me like it's like throwing like oxygen on a fire or something.
Yeah,
It
just
goes
burn
out.
it out. I just blew him up so you just get back to normal.
In your journey and careers, and I'm sure your dad disliked you leaving the business, but
Yeah.
how are they embracing now that you both are following a path of arts and parks?
My dad, he's pretty conservative. So the first thing he asks when I get a job or a position, like, how much does it pay? I'm like, not much because I work for environmental agencies, so it's more a labor of love. And whenever we would have an art show, like, oh, how many paintings did you sell? But I mean, he's just glad that we're happy. He just wants us to be happy. And he saw that when I was at at his body shop, I would just sit in the corner and just like this, the phone, because no one wants to be at a body shop. It's either you wreck your car or you have to get an inspection. It's
It's
sort
a
of built on misfortune. And
Yeah, just tragedy.
so I was always answering telephone calls like, why does this cost so much? I'm like, I tried, I'm sorry. People would cry.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to art school, my dad was pretty trepidatious about it. Like, he was like, "Great, I'm gonna have to support this kid my whole life." But when I first started, like, I started as an illustrator. So when I got my first like illustrations in the magazines and like New York Times or whatever, he was like, "Oh, cool." And then when I actually started making a living off it, he was amazed.
Yeah. Yeah, even at the body shop, he'd be talking to his customers like, oh, my son, he's an artist. I've never heard of anyone making it in art before.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I really like felt like a unicorn. You know, like,
Yeah. But my mom has always been super supportive of our art. She loves everything. She has probably the biggest Ben Kehoe collection out there. I mean, we have our similar interests, but I guess I am pursuing like more like outdoor natural things, and just going through this graduate program, I feel like I'm really found out that I really like to work outside compared to the hours and hours of inside work that I've done painting about the outside. So that's something that I found that I'm pursuing a different sort of career.
Yeah, and I guess I was like kind of more restless person. Like I travel around a lot more. I lived in a bunch of different cities, especially like pursuing this art school. And yeah, I guess you just kind of like being in a pretty solid place.
Yeah. Got some solid people here in Pittsburgh, so why go anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, you always come back to Pittsburgh. So.